Alright guys, today we're talking The Last of Us. I finally played it. This game's been out since when did it come out? 2014. Finally got a chance to play it because I've been an Xbox boy for a while, but now I got a PS5. Again, the show came out. I wanted to watch the show, but I wanted to play the game first. So I finally decided to play the game. Also, I just didn't think this was going to be my type of game, so kind of put off playing it, but finally did it. But massive disclaimer here, I know a big part of this game is the story, and with this game being as old as it is and me being the video game fan and enthusiast that I am, I knew how it ended. I knew the major chunks of it for a long time now. Long before I played it, so I just kind of have to go along with that knowledge, but was still able to play the game, still get some enjoyment out of it despite knowing how it ended. And last but not least, I did have intentions of playing the first remaster of the game, the one that came out in 2013 is when the original game came out. The original remaster came out in 2014 because it was free on PlayStation, but luckily the boy Noomer, channel regular, he had a copy of Last of Us Part 1, which is all the footage you're seeing now, which was recorded on PS5, so that's pretty cool. And of course, spoilers abound, but this is like a 10-year-old game at this point, so unless you're like me, odds are you already played this game. But let's get into it. This game, I'm gonna be talking about the game as a whole, like the very first one, not necessarily part 1 for a chunk of this. But The Last of Us came out, it was developed by Naughty Dog and was originally released in June 2013, with the first remaster coming out almost a year later. A little over a year later, in July of 2014, and then a sequel, which was The Last of Us Part 2, very original naming, was released in June of 2020. Then the latest entry in the franchise, which was another remaster of the first game, which is The Last of Us Part 1, which again is what you are seeing, was released in September 2022 and renamed Last of Us Part 1, because before it was originally just The Last of Us, then there was The Last of Us Part 2, but with this new remaster coming out, that is called The Last of Us Part 1. And then a very general overview of the story. You play as Joel, a man who was there when the outbreak began, and by outbreak it's like this viral infection that, let's be honest, turns people into zombies. Call them clickers all you want, they're zombies. Turns people into zombies, and he's survived in this world for about 20 years, and this is when you take over for the most part. It's when a bulk of the gameplay is this 20 years later. He gets tasked with escorting a girl to a high-tech lab because she's the key to a cure, apparently. She's invincible to the virus. And that's a bulk of when the game takes place. That's 99% of the game is you on this escort mission with Ellie, the little girl. Obviously an incredibly boiled down version of the story. There's more to it than that, but in its most basic form, that is the story of the game. Pros of the game. Graphics are quite superb. Might just be the fact that it's Last of Us Part 1. I don't, like I said, without having played the original or the first remaster, can't really speak on how well those look for their time, at least with confidence. But with me playing the best version of it, graphics-wise at least, it was definitely a good-looking game. I certainly was pleasantly surprised, honestly. It looked a lot better than I was expecting. Another pro, this is kind of like a stealth game, borderline like, I don't know, I want to say Ghost of Tsushima, but it's really kind of not like that too close, but in the same type of thing where you're supposed to, when you find encounters, you're definitely supposed to try and stay hidden. This game especially more so with Ghost of Tsushima. With Ghost of Tsushima, you can usually pretty easily just hack and, if things do go wrong, you can just hack and slash your way out. This game, if you get seen, it's definitely your chances of surviving go down quite a bit. So, but definitely sneaking around is a fun thing to do. I'm not, especially with Ghost of Tsushima, I like being able to hack and slash my way out because I'm not the best at doing it, but I always try. And luckily with this game, you can still get out of these situations, but I definitely try and be sneaky when I can. And it just was kind of fun sneaking around with this game. Did a really good job with the stealth mechanics. Definitely one thing that stuck out to me in a good way was that in a lot of stealth games, when you get seen, you usually get like a visual cue or a visual and an audio cue. In this game, it's just an audio cue. It's just like some, I don't know, I want to say white noise, but that's not a good way of putting it. Just like some type of sound effect starts playing, which is I kind of liked, even though it's not as informative as visual cue, because just hearing the sound kind of throws panic down your spine. And in a game like this, that's kind of what you want. It's quite immersive, because if I was in a situation like this, sneaking around trying to kill people without being seen, my life depended on it, little girl's life depended on it, and someone was starting to figure out what was going on, they were seeing me and pointing their gun at me, yeah, I'd probably panic a little bit too. So the fact that they kind of went a little different path with the enemy detection, we'll say, and going just audio cue, I definitely like that. It was definitely a kind of the part that stuck out to me that I enjoyed. And yikes, that's kind of last of the pros I have. Ooh. We're gonna talk about some cons. So sound EQing was horrible, and by that I mean it's like some parts were incredibly loud, some parts were incredibly quiet, and they could be very close to each other, if not overlapping. I was constantly adjusting my volume with this game. Sometimes I was just, with everything going on, I was too lazy to, so my eardrums are either bleeding out, or I feel like I turned subtitles on for that reason. I typically don't play games with subtitles too often. I made a point to go in the settings and turn subtitles on, because sometimes the talking's just too quiet when there's a whole lot of loud stuff going on. Like I said, I was constantly adjusting my volume here, and I got solid speakers set up, so definitely wasn't my speaker's fault. And I can forgive that here and there if that's just like a once in a while thing, but it was borderline, I don't want to say constant, but definitely way too frequent than it should have been. I was just constantly adjusting my volume to make sure I could hear everything, both hear everything in the game as well as not damage my ears. So with this being a stealth game, silently taking people down, like every other stealth game, is obviously a huge part of it, and you are able to do that in this game. But one thing I didn't like is you automatically, when you do that, no matter what kind of gun you have in your hand, it automatically switches you to a one-handed gun, a pistol, which is quite frustrating because ammo isn't always super easy to come by in this game, and I probably used my shotgun more than anything. So when I'm sneaking around, I got my shotgun out and I don't have any ammo for any of my pistols. I grab a guy, I strangle him, I'm starting to get seen, I do get seen, and then by the time I get the guy down, I finish killing the guy and I go to point my gun at the dude who sees me, it's all out of ammo because it just automatically equipped that for me. So then I gotta switch to a gun that does have ammo, and in that process I'm taking a bullet or two and potentially dying at parts because of that. And I thought that was really annoying. I kind of get why they did it, because I know you can like kind of use people as a meat shield, but once you kill them, once you finish the takedown kill, you should automatically switch back to whatever gun you had out before. And I thought that was just kind of a really annoying little thing they did there, and it definitely caused more trouble than it's worth. Reloading was kind of a chore at times, which let me explain here. Guns that use a mag, like your pistol, there's like a little one-handed shotgun you get. Guns that use a mag and reloading, not a problem at all. It's the guns where you reload one shot of it at a time that was really kind of annoying, because you pull the shoot button to reload. In fact, it doesn't even fucking matter how you reload. I would hit the reload button and with like a shotgun or a revolver, and sometimes he would load just one shot in, and then I'd have to hit the reload button again to load in the other bullets / shotgun shells. And I know this isn't human error, because there were times I didn't like understand what was going on, so there were times where I'd hold the reload button and still the same thing would happen. Sometimes he'd load it all in one go, sometimes he would just do the one and then the rest. It was just incredibly inconsistent, which I found incredibly annoying and frustrating at times. Kind of a minor thing, but still just something I wanted to point out, that I was like, man, this just seems like an interesting direction. I don't know if like my game was bugging or what, but definitely found that pretty annoying. Sometimes you gotta do a lot of picking stuff up and opening drawers and opening doors in this game, and that's all done using in my case, the triangle button to interact with things. Sometimes you had to be in like an incredibly specific spot to do this. There were a couple times where I was like really fidgeting around a little area until that little button prompt was visible for 0.2 seconds and hoping I could hit triangle in time. You really just had to, not all the time. In fact, it was definitely not all the time. But there were times, obviously enough for me to recall it happening, to talk about it here, to where I had to stand in like an incredibly specific spot to activate and interact with stuff. One time in particular, I'm thinking about, there was this part where I had to carry a ladder around, and I wasn't sure what to do with it at first, and you walk about 0.1 miles per hour when you're carrying this type of stuff. So I set it down to kind of get my bearings straight, LA Beast there. And once I set it down, figured out what I needed to do, I picked the ladder back up. It just straight up wouldn't let me. I was running around that ladder for a solid couple minutes, trying to figure out where I need to be to pick this thing up, and it never let me pick it up. So I actually just had to restart from the last checkpoint, which luckily was mere seconds before this whole thing happened. So definitely not a huge waste of time at all. Little things stuck out to me for a game that's essentially 10 years old. Now to the final con, which is my biggest gripe with this game, is the ending. I'm going to tell you how it ends, for those who don't know and don't care, obviously, otherwise you wouldn't be listening to me explain it. At the end of the game, you get to the lab you were trying to get to, and Ellie, like I said, Ellie's the key to cure the disease. Say that 3 times fast. And she's on the operating table. Long story short, you're both knocked out. You wake up, she's on the operating table, and you're talking to the leader of the Fireflies, which is who you're trying to get Ellie to the whole time. And they're about to perform the surgery to figure out what about her is making her immune. But in the process of doing this surgery and extracting whatever, it would kill her. And Joel is not happy about this. He ends up blasting through the whole building just to save her life, kills tons of people just to save Ellie's life, which under normal circumstances, yeah, save her life. Whatever. But I just think this was such an incredibly selfish choice on Joel's part. He chose his happiness over a cure for a disease that's ravaged the nation and has caused way more than just him to completely derail their lives. And obviously, playing the game and looking at the atmosphere, I'm sure you can tell that life is not the same thanks to this outbreak of this disease. And there could have been a cure for it, but Joel decided to put his happiness before the rest of the world and blast up the place and not allow the doctors to potentially find a cure for the disease. And then not only did he do that, he then proceeded to lie to Ellie about it twice. It's the person who he claims, who is very obviously the person he cares most about in this whole world, he decides to lie to, a massive lie to her face twice. And that is just so ridiculous, because I understand the chances of a cure were not 100%, and they could have been fucking nowhere near 100%. But I'm pretty sure it would have been higher than 0%, which is what it ended up being thanks to Joel, because he, like I said, he shot up the place. Granted, she probably didn't know she would, maybe she did know she would die, but there was a real chance to start to get things back to normal in this world and to save thousands, if not millions of lives. And Joel decided to throw that all away because he wants to be happy. And it's just such an incredibly selfish decision in my mind. I get that it wouldn't be an easy thing to let happen. I understand that. He'd be grieving. He'd be sad. I'd be sad. But at the end of the day, you're choosing one life over thousands or millions. And I think in the grand scheme of things, that's just such a selfish decision on his part to not allow that surgery to happen. And it really pissed me off, honestly. And like I said, I knew how this game ended. I knew this was coming, but watching it actually play out pissed me off so much, and I could not stand it. I just think it sounds like a broken record, but it just really pissed me off about how Joel just decided to do what he did. And for those who know what happens to him in the second game, I'm not going to go too deep into detail here, but let's just say he got what's coming to him in my mind. And that's really all the main talking points I have on this game. And I got to be honest, I'm not overly impressed. Like I said, I knew this wasn't going to be my type of game. That's kind of why, besides being an Xbox boy, that's part of what took me, even, how long have I had this PlayStation? 2-3 years at this point? I think 2 years, and I'm finally getting around to playing one of the best, this all-time classic game. But although I wasn't overly impressed with it, I did have a good time with it. I actually ended up liking it. I did have a lot of fun when I was playing it. I was reveling in it. I was at work. I was looking forward to getting home, playing some Last of Us. But at the end of the day, it was a good time, not a great time. With this being part 1, I did have access to the DLC where it's like Ellie and her friend. I didn't play that because I did not care enough. I have little to no interest in playing the sequel. And to be honest, watching with the show being my main motivation to play this game before watching the show, the ending really left a bad taste in my mouth, honestly. And just the game as a whole, I feel like is pretty overrated. So after playing the game, I really don't feel a need to watch the show either. Am I against watching the show? No. But am I gonna really make a priority to do it? Not at this point. And I can't stress this enough though. Having said all this, I understand the story is a main part of this game, and with it being as old as it is and the enthusiast that I am, I got it spoiled for me a long time ago, and I acknowledge that's probably weighing in on my opinion of this game. But nonetheless, that is the view I have with all things considered. At the end of the day, like I said, I did have fun with this game. I don't think it's a bad game by any means, but is it worthy of all the praise it got in my mind? Not even close. And it's probably up there with my most overrated games I've ever played. Probably in the top 3 if I'm being entirely honest. Which, maybe I'll make another video called Cam's Overrated Games. But that's really it. Do I recommend this game if you haven't played it already? Yeah, sure. I'm not gonna sit here and say that you're like missing out on greatness by not playing it, because I don't believe you are. But if you don't have anything else to play, you want a good single-player story game, pop this in. But by no means would I make it a priority at all. But that's really all I got. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Always pumping out videos, whether it be food or video game videos. Always got more of those on the way. Let's talk in the comments. How much do you hate me for having this absolutely minority flaming hot take on The Last of Us? Listen, I'm fully aware I'm in a severe minority here, but at the end of the day, this wouldn't be the first time, put it that way, with video game opinions, that I'm in a severe minority. So let's talk in the comments. Talk about how much you hate me for saying this, how much you hate my opinion, how much I'm wrong, or if you're on my side, anything you didn't like about the game and or whatever. Let's just talk Last of Us down in the comments. I appreciate your time watching. Always do. Thank you for sticking around with me through this hot take machine. I will be back next time with some sort of video. I already know what kind of game I want to make my next video game video on, but that won't be probably for at least a little bit here because it's kind of an expansive game. But thanks for watching. I appreciate you. Always will. Always do. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Let's make this love last till Valentine's. Let's spend this night together. Let the spark